The first game I ever remember receiving was Pokemon Diamond for the DS. I remember my dad coming to pick me up and sliding it out of his jacket pocket like he was dealing me hard drugs. And with how obsessed I became, he may well have been. I had this little notebook that I would jot down ideas for new Pokemon, an entire region with routes, gym leaders, an evil gang, and everything you would need to make a Pokemon game. And I think I had it in my 7-year-old mind that once that was done, I could just ship it off to Japan, and that's how Nintendo would make the next Pokemon game. I'm not sure they're in the habit of taking ideas from 7-year-olds, but the next game did feature the Ice Cream and average Genshin Impact player Pokemon, so maybe they could have used it. They probably might have just sued me though. That was the start of my passion to make something that people could play and experience. I wanted to make games, but it wasn't until a while later that I started learning how to program. When I was 12, Minecraft had got pretty popular, and with it being written in Java, if I learned that, I could make mods for it. So at a teacher's recommendation, I looked on a certain website and set about to learn JavaScript, which is a completely different programming language, in fact named to take advantage of the fact that Java was very popular and to try and, steal some of that popularity for itself. So after realizing that I had been bamboozled and taken for a fool by a 20-year-old marketing stunt, I looked online, well, what language are games written in? And the first answer, Yahoo Answers, rest in peace. The first answer on that page said, mostly English, but some are written in Japanese too. The second answer said C++, and so off I went. Over the next several years, I made several small projects, either games or just ideas I wanted to explore, and from each of them, I learned something new and got closer to reaching my goal. I made this little top-down shooter called Darkened Space. I had a whole lore for it to do with futuristic spacefaring civilization and how you could geoengineer these creatures and geofactories to make the things that your civilization needed, like how these snakes would make electricity. And then I guess the wolves were bullets, and then the giant frog was also electricity. It wasn't perhaps good lore, but it was lore, and that was a step for me. There was no pathfinding the AI that's walking along here. That's predetermined points that I would go into paint.net, find the coordinates, and hand program in, which incidentally is also how I did the enemies spawn points, which made it really frustrating if I wanted to move stuff around or plan the level. And then all collision with the level was done based on the color of the background, and so I actually have just a thing that checks what color you're touching, which is a very bad way of doing collision, and I ended up with the level sort of looking a bit bland. It was in fact so hard to make these levels that this was it. This was the only one. But one thing I was proud of was I got the reticle to change which direction it was going each time you shot. And I remember when I showed my dad, he was like, oh, neat. I don't get it. Which was really disheartening, because I thought it was cool. And I'm sure you know why it's cool too, and I'm sure you will tell me as such in the comments below. And so learning from these mistakes, for my next project, I revisited a platformer idea I had, but this time I made my own level editor. Now, did I use any of the great tools available online to help me do this? No, of course I didn't. I made my own one, and it crashed 50% of the time when you opened it. But we can hide our regrets by calling it a learning experience. With the editor, I could make more, better designed content faster for my friends to play, and then get quick feedback from them and use it to make new exciting levels or improve the concepts I had previously. I would slowly make harder levels as they got better, and then I'd take their ideas on board. This anti-gravity jump thing where you have to hop in halfway through to get boosted out actually came as a result of me brainstorming with a friend how to make things harder. Because, and this was the really important part about this game for me, this was the first time my friends had actively wanted to come and play something I'd made. They'd come find me during lunch break and ask if they could give it a go. They'd cry out that it's their turn if someone else had failed at a section too many times. They wouldn't let me take the controls off them if they've got stuck on something. No, it doesn't matter if they found it frustrating. It was a challenge and it was fun. And getting to watch people genuinely enjoy something that I'd made was a wonderful experience. And then I may have taken on too many unfiltered 17-year-olds' opinions for this next project, Supersonic Shooter. In this fast-paced top-down action brawler, you play as a PNG of Sonic the Hedgehog trying to fight hit UK chef Ainsley Harriott.
Give your meat a good old rub. Yeah, boy.
You would run about avoiding these little Ainslets while throwing burgers at them or giving them a good old rub while you go and you try and steal his magic spatula. There was proper pathfinding this time, cool graphical effects, and this was also the first time that I'd taken advantage of some dynamic loading of my game, be it enemies spawning in and jump scaring my friends, which was always a joy to watch, or by these dynamic level sections loading in on the fly. It was also my first experience with game dev crunch culture, because I sort of mispredicted how much longer it would take me to finish the game, and so would take snaps on Snapchat and send them to my friends with titles like 4 days until Supersonic Shooter, and then have to work like hell because there was way more work left than I thought there was. And I remember on the day getting a few messages asking me, so where is Supersonic Shooter? And the answer was, it was not finished, and I had burnt myself out. The next game, made in 2018 for my A-level coursework, was Veil. It's a 2D, dungeon crawler-like, puzzle-like game, which is sort of just like a take on the Silent Realms from Zelda Skyward Sword. There was better pathfinding, ignore that debug log, a full level editor, proper levels with a start and finish, cool effects, and actual menu, like all of the works. I also talked about Five Nights at Freddy's in my write-up, and someone had to read that and mark it. The relative polished and finishedness of this game was helped by the fact that I had a strict deadline. It was coursework after all, and so it needed to be finished and a write-up submitted. And then, with a year's gap of little projects and making friends at uni, that brings us to the start of this channel, and me making my game framework for more games that I wanted to make moving forwards. And so as I met people at uni, and we talked about hobbies, I'd invariably mention, oh, I'm working on this game thing. And I'd show off what I made to my friends. And they'd go, oh, this looks cool. When will it be ready to playtest? You know, when's the playtest? I'm excited to play this. And I couldn't answer that. Really. You know, this isn't the game, right? I'm finishing this to make the game afterwards, you know? Oh, they'd say. And you can see in their eyes they didn't, get it. Because it didn't make sense. And they'd ask what the game was. You know, what's the game? What are you making? What will the game be? And I couldn't answer that one either. Really, in any way that mattered. It'll be like a 2D, like there'll be action and like puzzles in it. You know, like the old Zelda, or like Crosscode would be my limp response. When I showed my friends Veil, they'd really enjoy it. And they'd say how cool it was that I'd made it and how it looks really neat. And I wanted to say stuff like, you can see the rough edges. This is nothing compared to what I can do now. Except I couldn't say that. Because I hadn't made anything. I remember a key example of that experience for me being in 2023. Veil was 5 years old at this point. And it's even older, and I still haven't made anything new. I turned 24 recently. I started when I was 12. I've been making games for half my life, and for half of that period, I haven't actually made anything. I would aim too high and be unable to do it, but learn a lot and make something that looked cool, and so jazzed up on my successes, and in my hubris, I'd start a new project aiming even higher. And so noticing this, about 10 months ago, I decided, the engine must be finished, right? I'll try and make something with it. And so I tried to make the first Mario in it, which was a slightly foolish decision, because that's not the type of game it was made to make. But it taught me what no words could have taught me at the time. I had not made a tool that could be used to make a game. I had been making a tool which I could use to make more tools. When I started making Mario, there were just problems that I would run into, things that the engine would clearly need to do but had not been designed in, because it had been so long since I'd made a game and I never tried to make a game with it that I wasn't able to recognize the rough spots. It took me 2 hours just to try and get like tiles drawing, a level loading in, because there were so many edge cases and special effects and cool ideas for tools I'd made that the engine then required. It was the same issue I'd had working on Unity in my third year. Stuff was harder to do than it would have been had there been no engine there. I was having to actively fight the engine, spend more work trying to do simple things that the engine just hadn't accounted for. And so I put the tools down, but I kept the lessons that I'd learned. Now, I was in a brief re-obsession with Age of Empires DS. In fact, this old Nintendo magazine, in a review of it, says, the game's good, but the AI was rather too easy. Which I'd found insulting, because I was never able to do the hard campaign as a child. But that gave me some inspiration. I could make a similar game, and I could just make it and write what I needed as I went along. No tools, just making the game. And I think I went a bit too freeform at the end, because it sort of ended up as a spaghetti mess. And I had to put it down, but it was eye-opening how fast I could get something by just going. And I also beat the hard campaign, finally. And I agree with the review. Sometimes the AI feels like it's just had an unsuccessful lobotomy. I think I just wasn't very good at the game. And that brings us to my current game, which I've been working on for a few months now. It's a small Sokoban-style game, which I call Logicy. The goal of this project is to make a small game, make it good, make it fun, and make it done. After years of learning and getting better, to just have something finished and release it. And this is also giving me experience with parts of the game-making process I'd never done before, because I never got this far. Like game design and playtesting. I'd always had a passion for game design, and getting to do it again has been a great time. And of course I still let myself turtle into some tech every so often, so there's lots of fun tech stuff to talk about as well. And so if you're interested in this, the next step of my journey, please consider subscribing and coming along. We're very close, after 4 years, to 100 subscribers now, which means at this rate, only about 42 more years, and I'll get to 1,000 subscribers and monetization. I hope to see you in the next one, and goodbye for now.